After all those delays, good evening, good evening. We are in the middle of a very special chapter of Tanya. Chapter 37. Let us get our bearings a little bit. And review a bit where we're holding in the chapter. And then keep on going, because we're in the middle of a big idea. The Alter Rebbe started this whole idea in Tanya, chapter 35, with a very personal question. What are we doing down here on earth? And that's not just a question of curiosity. It was a little bit of a painful question. Why do I have to suffer? Why does my soul have to suffer? If I'm a piece of God, a godly soul, divine and pure to its core, why did God make me be born into a life where I'm stuck in a body, I'm stuck in an animal soul, and I have to deal with the drudgery of life? And it pulls me down, it weighs me down. Perfection, to become a tzaddik, is not within our deck of cards. We're not going to become a tzaddik. We're not going to become Mr. or Mrs. Holy. So if so, what's my life for? Why am I struggling here in my body and in my animal soul? And the big shift that's been happening over here, over the past few classes, over the past few chapters, which is going to start reaching its climax in today's class, is that we don't live life for spirituality. We don't live life for asceticism. You remember I told you that story? Hasidism is not asceticism. Remember the story? It's a good story, very deep story. Gail doesn't remember it. Okay, I'll have to get back to it soon. The point, the goal, the end goal, not just of our lives, but of all of existence is, in the words of our sages, to bring God down here on earth, to make God at home here on earth. And the way we do that, the mechanism, how we do that, is very simple. We take all physical resources that we were able to get our hands on, and physical resources are not holy, but we connect, we bring in those physical stuff into the act of a mitzvah. The moment we do that, a mitzvah brings God down into this world. A mitzvah opens up a channel of raw God, raw godliness, raw godly presence, brings it down into this world. And a mitzvah, every single mitzvah is designed to bring along into that mitzvah something else of this physical world. And whatever the mitzvah could take hold of, it infects it in a good way. It changes the very energy that is giving existence to that physical object from being just a natural, ungodly energy, which we call klipa, to being an energy where God shines within them. So here's an example. Here's a book. Here's a Torah book. Booklet. Okay, little pamphlet. This pamphlet is made out of paper. Ink. Where does paper come from? Even if it's recycled, it's still coming from a tree, right? Paper comes from a tree. Is a tree holy? Trees are not holy. Where was this tree? Okay, this was printed in Israel. So Israeli paper. Where's that tree from a printing press in Israel? Where's the tree coming from? I have no clue. Either from Israel, probably not Israel. I don't know. They bring in trees from somewhere. And somehow, from a tree, you make paper. So you have a tree. A tree is not holy. You cut down that tree, you make paper out of it. But then, that piece of paper is used not just to print some novel or some secular book, which is great and wonderful, but this piece of paper got the ability, there's Torah printed on it. And now I bought that book, and now I study from this book. Now that I'm studying from this book, the very paper, the very tree, that once upon a time was just a tree. What is it? It's just a tree. Nothing very special about it. Now this tree was brought into a mitzvah. And now there's another piece of our world, a little piece, but another piece. Another material of our world now used to be ungodly, now it's godly. Now it is hosting God. Now there's a piece of the resources of our universe that has brought God within it. That is the power of a mitzvah. But the Alter Rebbe now went a lot further. The goal is not just to bring God a little bit into this world. The goal is to bring God totally into this world. So think about it. How much of the world's resources are we able to bring into a mitzvah throughout our entire lifetime? A lot, but it's a fraction. If we want to make the whole world into a home for God, and the way to make the world into a home for God is by doing mitzvahs with the world, how does that work? And it seems to be a little bit of an impossible task. A little bit of an impossible task. There's not that many Jews out there. There are a lot of Jews who live throughout history, but it's a fraction. How many mitzvahs do we get to do? How much of the physical universe do we get to bring into a mitzvah? And what the Alter Rebbe started developing in last week's class, and we're really going to bring it to life in today's class, is the idea that if we take care of the life that God has given us, and we protect that life, we preserve that life, that it never gets muddied and sullied by doing a sin. What does a sin mean? When the Torah tells don't do something, the problem is you're wasting energy, and you'll never be able to get back that energy. If you do a sin, what you're doing is you're taking energy, and you are tying it up into the 3 impure klipos. Once something is involved with the 3 impure klipos, you can't get it out. At least not using conventional methods. There are ways to do it, but step 1, by default, don't get stuck there. But the most important thing is to take your energy that you have within your animal soul, the very energy of life, your biological life, and do mitzvahs with that energy. And what the Alter Rebbe says is something very profound. We have to back up. We have to back up. We have to see ourselves in a very serious and a very profound way. We are not just another little ant crawling around planet Earth, trying to survive, trying to thrive, trying to do stuff, trying to have fun, trying to live a good, fulfilling life. Every single Jew has to view him or herself as the center of the universe. Not in a narcissistic way, but in a way of deep responsibility. The entire universe is a machine. It's cranking up, and there's unbelievable amounts of energy and productivity happening, and all roads are leading to you. Not all roads, but whatever hits you, all those roads are hitting you. And you ultimately are where all the energies of the world end up. And then you have a choice, what are you going to do with that energy? What the author is going to say is there's something very deep about the presence of a Jewish soul here on earth, and there's something even more exacting over here. And what we're going to be doing in today's class, we're going to be backing up, getting a very big picture, and even starting to see things from God's perspective. We're going to pull the curtain back into an area of life that we humans and mortals don't usually get to understand and see. And even when we learn about it, we'll realize just how much we don't understand about it. But it's pretty mind-blowing, if I may say. Dear friends, let's begin reading page 280 in the middle. And we're by the subtitle, Your Responsibility to the World. Or as a graphic designer would call it, an A header. That's an A header. Maybe it's a B header. Okay. Your responsibility to the world. Says the Alter Rebbe. It all depends on this, meaning it all depends on a Jew doing a mitzvah. And a Jew staying away from doing what the Torah tells us not to do. You got it. If the Torah tells don't do it, don't do it. And the whole home for God is depending on you. Why? Because the entire Jewish people, comprised of 600,000 core soul souls, are the spiritual life force for the entire world. since the world was created for their sake. The Alter is reframing the relationship between each and every one of our souls and the Jewish people's souls collectively to the world. The energy of the world is contained within and connected to the souls of the Jewish people. I'll give you a little example. I don't know if it's a good example. I don't know if it's the best example, but it's an example. Imagine you have a big family. You have a big family. You have a lot of stuff. You have a lot of things you want to do. A lot of things you need a home for. You need a bedroom in the house. You need a kitchen. You need a place to host people. You need to have a home office. The other spouse needs a home office, right? So there's two ways of approaching a house. One is you buy a house. And when you buy a house, okay, you bought a house. When you buy a house, the house wasn't built with you in mind. The house was built. Maybe it was built with somebody else in mind. But the house is here. Now you just enter into the house. Now what you do is when you buy a house, you start figuring out, what do I do with the house? Okay, the kitchen's the kitchen. But how am I going to modify the kitchen? How am I going to use the existing cabinets for my needs? And, and I have this bedroom and that bedroom. And you try to figure out what every single room and what every single space in the house is going to be used for. Then there's another way. You build a house. When you build a house, you don't make a house and then decide what you're going to do with all the spaces. What do? You first figure out, what do I want? What do I want? What do I need for my kitchen? What do I need for my bedroom? What do I need for my office? What do I need for my living room? What do I need for my children? And then you build a house around that vision. Meaning, you are not giving energy to a pre-existing house. The house is built with your energy, so to speak. It is your interest that's powering the very existence of the house. The Alter says something very deep over here. The world is not a world with who knows how many billions and trillions upon trillions of stuff in the world, and so many systems, and so many species. And then God puts in the Jewish souls, the Jewish people into the world. And then God's figuring out how to get the Jews busy in the world and how to give the Jews a purpose in the world. No, that's not the way it works. First, there are Jews. And first, there is a purpose. And then the world is built around the purpose and built around the people that are there to serve the purpose. So it's not that there's a world and then we put Jews into the world and we figure out what to do with the world. The world is designed based on the purpose and based on the souls themselves that are there to do the purpose. Just like a custom-built house. Everything could be explained. Why'd you make this room? Oh, I'll tell you why I made this room, right? If you come to my house and ask me, why is this room here? I'll say, I don't know. I actually think it's a pretty bad idea that this room is here. And it's a pretty bad idea the way the room was made, but what can I do? No, that's not the way it works with the world. And the Alter says, the world was created for their sake. The world was created for the sake of the Jewish souls. This is actually one of the very first things that Rashi, the great commentator on the Torah, tells one of the very first things, if not the first thing he tells us, in his commentary on the Torah. On the verse, Bereshit, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth, Rashi teaches us, the world was created for the Jewish people. Not for us to be narcissistic, but for us to understand that we have a very big purpose, and that's what we're here for. That's what the world is here for. The world is here for that purpose. And within the 600,000 core souls, the root souls of the Jewish people is the spiritual life force of the entire world. Let's keep on reading. This concept will become clear as we keep on going. Each individual core soul contains within it and is designated to the energy of 1/600,000th part of the whole physical world. The elevation of that portion of the world is dependent on that biological animal souls elevation to God. Listen to this. There are 600,000 root souls, core souls. We'll explain this concept in a moment. But all the Jewish people and all Jewish souls who have ever lived in all of history are subdivided into 600,000 units. Each unit is one of 600,000. The whole world was also created in 600,000 units. So I just want you to imagine this. There are 600,000 individual soul units, and the entire universe, every single blade of grass, every single grain of sand, every single drop of water, is in another bucket. There are 600,000 buckets. And all of reality is part of one unit. The world is in 600,000 pieces. And every single piece belongs to a different soul. Every single soul is designated to another piece of the universe. And it's a perfect science. It's a perfect puzzle. 600,000 souls, 600,000 buckets that the world is divided into. Every single soul has a responsibility to elevate that part of the world. And the way that you, a Jew, elevates your part of the world is by you elevating your personal life. You have a body, you have an animal soul, and you elevate it. How by you elevating your life do you elevate the physical stuff in your surroundings? Says the Alter Rebbe, listen to this. This is the key paragraph. Bottom of page 280. This elevation of your specific portion of the world takes place when you use this physical world to help your body and biological animal soul to serve God, such as food and drink, etc., as well as using your home and all its equipment. Let's just think about it for a second. Living life is all about coming into contact with the physical universe. You can't live life in a vacuum. So from the moment you were born, you needed shelter, you needed clothing, you needed a home to live in, you needed food, drink. We are non-stop every single day coming into contact with new stuff from the physical universe. There was a study done on average how many deliveries the average home in America gets from Amazon Prime. How many new stuff are we getting on a daily basis? It is a very scary number. The amount of homes that are getting at least one package on a daily basis is staggering. Which means the average American, more or less, is getting new materials delivered to their door every single day. And even if you're not a big spender, you're going shopping often. You need a new bottle of shampoo. You need to go buy new groceries. I'm saying it's non-stop. We're always... The Alter Rebbe says, what is happening over here? What is happening is, and this is the way God runs the world. Every single soul has another piece of the universe that it is responsible for. The world was created. There was another part of this world that was created with your soul in mind. It's a wild concept. It's a very scary concept. There's a tree created, and it was created for your soul, and your soul is designated. This is your tree that you need to work with. That tree could be in Cambodia. Now, what do I have to do with Cambodia? I don't know. But it has your name written on it. From the moment you were born, you were destined. That tree is your tree. How does God make the world? The way the infinite God runs his universe is that he brings the physical resources that belong to us, he brings that to our door. Or he brings us there. The reason why your plane got delayed, and the reason why they had to make an emergency landing in Charlotte, North Carolina, was because you had to get there. There was a piece of this universe that your soul had to reach there. It's an awe-inspiring concept. God is bringing us into contact with the pieces of our physical universe, with the very substance of our universe that is meant for us, for the blade of grass, for the grain of sand that we need to touch. Which means everything, all the energies of the universe are being fed to us. We are at the top of that food chain. There's a world which is constantly moving and producing and just nonstop buzz. Stuff happening. And it ends up by your door. It ends up being your opportunity. And when you bring that physical stuff into your life, and then you use that energy for a mitzvah, you are elevating not just yourself, but you are elevating another part of the world. And in fact, your part of the world. Your piece of the universe, you are doing that work. And if every single Jew elevates their life, brings God into their life, you're bringing God into the part of the world that was always destined for you to touch it. That's how we bring Mashiach. It's a perfect science. It's a perfect science. And really what it is we need all hands on deck. If a puzzle, even if it's 1,000 pieces, but if a puzzle is missing one piece, the puzzle's not complete. And it's noticeable, right? Every single one needs to do it. Okay, so then you'll say, but what happens if I had an opportunity and I missed the opportunity? So we'll get to that. But this is an awe-inspiring idea that there's a part of the universe that's yours. And what we would usually call chance or circumstance. Why am I living where I'm living? Why did I pick this sweater, this jacket off the shelf and not a different one? Why did I buy this car and not that car? Why am I living in this house and not that house? The fact is, everything gets to where it needs to be. And in today's universe, with how interconnected the universe is, we understand that. It could be I mentioned a story in an earlier class, but there's once a Jew who heard this concept in Chassidus, that the entire universe is designed to ultimately tie into a mitzvah. And this individual was in a private audience with the Rebbe, and he asked the Rebbe a question. If we have to elevate the whole world, then what about China? There are no Jews in China. And Chinese, the biggest nationality, the one with the biggest population, is the Chinese people. How are they part of this mission? You know what the Rebbe said? The Rebbe said, open up your coat. Where does it say it was made? And guess what it said? Made in China. So everything is feeding into this purpose. This smartphone has so many different components to it. Dozens of components. Every single component is made in a different country. And now I got the smartphone. There is an unbelievable amount of resources from the world that went into producing the smartphone. And now all those resources and all that energy is bundled up in this phone, and now it's in my hands. I get to choose what am I going to do with it. And what the Alter Rebbe says is, you think you're just doing a small act of a mitzvah. Okay, I'm doing a small mitzvah. I'll use this phone to study a little bit of Torah. So what? I did something humongous? I did something life-altering? And the Alter Rebbe says, yeah. A mitzvah is larger than life. A mitzvah touches upon an unbelievable amount of energy. And in fact, it's perfect. If you have this, that means it's yours. It's meant for you. Let's keep on reading a little bit. I want to read a little bit more, and then we're going to be able to tease this out a little bit more as well. Now, there's a little bit of an elephant in the room. We're using the number 600,000. 600,000 souls. Now, we all know there's a lot more than 600,000 Jews alive today, and there's way more than just 600,000 Jews who've ever lived in throughout history. So what do we mean by 600,000 souls and 600,000 parts of the universe? So the way it works is, and the Alter is going to give us a very brief touch of this concept. But when we say that there are 600,000 souls of the Jewish people, we mean really that there are 600,000 units of souls. Think about it like a tree. You could have a massive tree with dozens and dozens of branches extending from the tree, and every single branch even extends further into smaller twigs, and thousands upon thousands of leaves. But it all comes from one trunk, from one set of roots. So I want you to think of 600,000 trunks, 600,000 soul roots, soul trunks. So it's not that there are only 600,000 individual souls, it's that there are 600,000 units. And from these 600,000 units are spawned a whole network of many, many, many more, millions and even billions of souls within every single unit, but it's all part of that same network with a certain identity. Let's read this. Very, very fascinating idea. On page 281, soul math. Okay. Says the Alter Rebbe, there are, of course, more than 600,000 souls. So how does that work with the number 600,000? Says the Alter Rebbe, the 600,000 soul units are soul roots. They are roots. And each soul root is subdivided into a further 600,000 soul sparks. Each spark being a single soul, a neshama. Let's keep on reading a little bit more. And the same is true with the other parts of the soul, nefesh and ruach, which are also subdivided into a further 600,000 soul sparks. And the same subdivision exists in each world of the four spiritual worlds, Atzilus, Bria, Yetzira, and Asiya. All right, dear friends. There are 600,000 soul roots. They break off into soul sparks. Each soul spark is a full soul. How many soul sparks are there for every single root soul? This is the number. You ready for this? This is a staggering number. Who could help me with the math over here? We did the math also this morning. Take out your calculators. This is a big one over here. You ready? Anybody here good at math? Naturally? Leah, were you a math teacher? All right, here's some math. You gotta help me out over here. There are 3 levels to the soul, the way the soul lives within a body. There are 5 layers to the soul in general. 2 of them remain transcendent, beyond physical life. 3 of them enter the physical sphere. Let's focus now on those 3 levels. It's called nefesh, ruach, and neshama. Nefesh, ruach, and neshama. Each soul root branches off to 600,000 neshama sparks, 600,000 ruach sparks, and 600,000 nefesh sparks. So let's just do that. Let's just do that that math for one soul root. One root gives birth to 600,000 plus 600,000 plus 600,000. We're at 1,000,000.8. 1.8 million. Is that correct? Right, 600,000 plus 600,000 plus 600,000. 1.8 million. So there's 1.8 million soul sparks within one soul unit. Okay. It goes further. You ready to take it further? That subdivision of 1.8 million soul sparks happens on each of the 4 worlds. So there's 4 spiritual worlds, Atzilus, Bria, Yetzira, and Asiya. So the 1.8 times 4. What are we at? What's 1.8 times 4? Anybody? Help me out over here. I'm horrible with these numbers. What's 1.8 times 4? 1.8 million times 4. Let's try it. 1.8 million times 4. We are at 7,200,000. So each, so from, this is not 600, this is from one of 600,000 soul roots, you're spawning off into 7,200,000 soul sparks. Okay, so we're at 7,200,000. Now, let us times that. You ready for this? Times 600,000. You ready for the number? So if you do this math for all the soul roots, we are left at how many soul sparks? 4,320,000,000,000. That is the total amount of sparks, soul sparks, that belong to the Jewish people. 4,320,000,000,000. How does that number sound? It's a great number, no? Trillions and billions. Like Mark said today, our national debt is bigger than that, no?
Let's do it. I do have a question though.
Okay, so go for your question.
Okay, so the neshama, your soul is consisted of the nefesh and ruach. So what you're saying is that you're looking at this paragraph. It's that those are separate soul sparks that come into the neshama, or am I not looking at this right?
The exact mechanism of it could be a little bit technical. I don't want to get too lost in it. But basically, every single soul spark, and hopefully this answers your question, Mark, every single soul spark could be its own soul. But the specific identity of your soul spark, if it's a soul spark which is, first of all, which of the 600,000 souls does it belong to? Every single one of those 600,000 souls have a little bit of a different identity. Is it a nefesh soul spark? Is it a ruach soul spark? Or is it a neshama soul spark? That's a little bit of a different identity. Like you can see, some Jews are more action-based. Some Jews are more emotional-based. Some Jews are more intellectually based. Every single soul is more its own identity. And then also, which world is your soul spark of? Is it from the world of Atzilus? Is it from the world of Bria, Yetzirah, or Asiya? So all these variables are what create a very, very, very diverse range, a very diverse field of Jewish soul sparks. And your personality and your identity and your mission in life is determined by the soul sparks that you have. Now, let me just say like this. So hopefully that answers your question, Mark, a little bit. But the point is, you have a core identity to your soul. Is it primarily a nefesh soul? Is it primarily a ruach soul? Is it primarily a neshama soul? Now, there could be multiple soul sparks within one body. You could be born with one soul spark. You could be born with 1,000 soul sparks. The idea of a soul spark is that this is one spark, one mission that needs to happen. And Leah, yes, it's based on the Sefirot. I don't want to get too much into it, but this is very much based on the Sefirot. All the numbers and all the exact math is very much based on the Sefirot. It's a very exact science, and it's fascinating how we get to that science. You know, the exact number combinations that get there. But we can't do it tonight. Every single soul spark has a mission. Which means, a soul spark means there's a part of this world that is connected to that soul spark. So the same way, what was the number we gave? 4,320 billion. There are 4,320 billion specific soul sparks. There are 4,320 billion pieces of this universe. The whole universe is only this exact number. It's an exact number. And every single soul spark is associated with one little piece of this universe. Now again, you could be born with one soul spark, you could be born with 1,000 soul sparks, you could be born with 10,000 soul sparks. We don't know. But these are different opportunities. Every single soul spark means it's another potential. It's something else we need to do. Our soul is coming down into this world, into this body, into this time, into this space, into this place, with these opportunities, knowing these people, with these resources. It's all for a specific purpose. That's our identity in life. Our job in this world is to come into contact, interact with this universe, and make the best of it. Utilize every opportunity and realize just how awesome our very life is. I have a job I have. I'm in the place that I am. I have the capabilities, the resources, and the talents that I have, and it's all for one reason and one reason only. It's to set me up, another soul here on a mission, to make this world godly. And God is bringing all those resources that I need to me, or God is bringing me to them. But every moment is an opportunity. And every moment is a critical opportunity. There's a piece of this world that only me, only with the soul spark that I was born with, could be the one to activate this potential in this universe. There's a piece of this world that's waiting for me and only me. I'm the only one. Only my soul, with the unique shape, with the unique identity of my soul, could activate and make that little piece of this world more godly, and to make that little piece a home for God. And this is our responsibility to the world. And the Alter Rebbe says this is the big picture. We need every single soul, and if every single soul, and ultimately every single soul will do its purpose, this is what brings Mashiach. It's an exact science. Pretty awesome idea, no? Let's keep on reading. We'll bring this idea to a close. Says the Alter Rebbe, page 281, the middle of the page. The ultimate purpose why your soul is here. Says the Alter Rebbe, each soul spark came down to this world not for its own sake. Souls don't come down to this world to have a good time. Souls don't come down to this world for spiritual journeys. Souls don't come down for recreational purposes. I'm just here to have fun. I'm just here to live my own spiritual life. Souls don't come down for itself. Says the author, you have to realize, coming into this world is a very great descent for the soul. It's a real experience of exile. Coming into this world is very difficult. It's very hard for our souls. It's not comfortable for souls. Souls don't like coming down to this world. Why? Number one, we're in an alien environment. A soul entering planet Earth is a horribly alien environment. It's an uncomfortable environment. And it's an environment, the author says, that most importantly, it stifles the soul. A soul can't be as vibrant. The quality of life is so compromised here on Earth. Just a little example. I don't know if it's a good example, but a little example. And they give this example for people who have trouble breathing. They say, imagine if we clogged up your mouth and we clogged up your nose, you can't breathe, and we only give you a little straw. You can only breathe in and out of that little straw. That's very painful. There are people that they can't breathe properly, right? And it's as if they're only getting that amount of oxygen, a tiny little straw. A soul coming down into earth, what kind of spiritual life could it have? Up in heaven, it's having an amazing soulful experience. Here on earth, it's peanuts. Let's read. The Alter Rebbe says, for even if that soul, a soul coming down here into earth, were to become a complete tzaddik, a soul that lives up to the highest spiritual heights, becomes a complete tzaddik, serving God with awe and the love of intense pleasure. Still, says the Alter Rebbe, that soul wouldn't reach the same level of emotional connection to God with love and fear that it experienced before coming down to this material world. Nothing like it, and not a bit of it. A soul down here on earth, even if it reaches the highest potential for spirituality that's possible to have here down on earth, it's an embarrassment to what spirituality looks like in heaven. You think you're being spiritual? You're not doing anything. So we are not coming down here to earth to have a good time. We're not coming down here to earth to live spiritual lives in the conventional sense, to live transcendental and ascetic lives. That's not what life is about. The Alter Rebbe says, just think about it. Let's continue reading. There is simply no similarity or comparison at all between these two states. The soul in a body and the soul in heaven, you can't compare. The body simply can't contain the same level of emotional connection to God as the soul in heaven, as every intelligent person knows. You want to be spiritual here on earth? What's your spirituality? That's not why your soul is here. If your soul was here to be spiritual, go somewhere else. You're in the wrong place if you want to be spiritual. So then why are we here to live life? The Alter Rebbe is saying, stop looking for spiritual perfection. Stop looking for a holy retreat. Stop looking for a spiritual holy honeymoon. That's not what life is here is about. What's life about, says the Alter Rebbe? Rather, these are critical words. Here the Alter Rebbe is finally answering that painful question. Why am I alive? Why do I have to grapple with the darkness? Why do I have to grapple with my own coarseness and materialism and lowliness, unholiness? Why? Says the Alter Rebbe, top of page 282, rather, the soul's descent into this world, to be invested into a body, an energizing animal soul, is only for the purpose of fixing the body and animal soul, and not for the soul's own sake. We're not here to live for the soul. We're here for the soul to serve a godly purpose. And that godly purpose is to live in a body and to live with an animal soul. And it's not comfortable living with an animal soul. But that's the purpose of life, to engage it and to elevate it. What's our purpose? Let's keep on reading. The purpose is to keep the body and the animal soul away from the negativity of the three completely impure klipos, through observing the 365 Torah prohibitions and their rabbinic branches. Okay, that's number one. We have energy, and we need to make sure to protect that energy and not allow it to become contaminated by coming into contact with the three impure klipos. And then the next step is, says the Alter Rebbe, to elevate the energizing animal soul along with the unique portion of the world at large which has been designated to that soul, to connect and merge the animal soul and the world with God's infinite light. How does the soul bring down this light into them? Through observing all the 248 positive mitzvahs with the power of the energizing animal soul, which is the active force that powers your performing the practical commandments as we learned above. That's what we're living here for. We're living to not be disconnected from physical life. We're here to be living in a body, to living with an animal soul, and to constantly be coming into contact with physical life. But then to use all that energy to do a mitzvah with it. And the Alter Rebbe concludes, as stated in Eitz Chaim, the classical book of Kabbalah, section 26, chapter 1, that the soul itself, quote, does not need any fixing at all. It was forced into this world, into the body and animal soul, only to pull light upon them, to fix them. The soul's descent is directly comparable to the mystery of the Shekhinah's exile, which is for the sake of elevating sparks that have fallen. Okay, that's the quote. That's why we're living life. Life is all about having to live in the trenches, deal with the nitty-gritty. And I want to conclude with a little thought. Just imagine. Imagine in your mind, there's a young man, a young woman. They're looking to get married. They're looking for love. They get engaged. Ooh, it's so wonderful and so joyful. And this young man, he's well off. He's doing well in life, and he decides, I'm doing a destination wedding. He's planning in a year from now, in a year and a half from now, we're going to be doing a wedding, a beachfront wedding in Honolulu. We're going to be pulling all the stops. He sends out invitations. Hundreds of people are invited. Hundreds of people RSVP. They book tickets. They book a resort. We're going to Honolulu. We're having a wedding weekend like you've never seen. They hire the party planners. They hire the caterer. They're flying in specially. The caterer is spending months in advance making all the special orders, hiring the staff, the kitchen staff, the waiting staff. They hire the musicians. They hire the photographer and the videographer and the party planners. It's a wedding with unbelievable amount of noise and people. Hundreds of people are involved and invested in getting ready for the wedding. And then the bride and the groom, they go to the tailor and they're making a custom suit. Then there's the tailors involved. But, unfortunately, a week before the wedding, the bride, for whatever happens, cancels and breaks the engagement. We're not getting married. The bride thinks to himself, you know what, listen, so much money has been spent, so much work has been put in, so many people are lined up to be at the wedding, to be employed at the wedding, the musicians, the photographers, the whole catering crew. We have a whole party scheduled. Everybody has got their suits. It was already sent to the dry cleaners. The party's ready to go. He says, okay, listen, we wanted it to be a wedding. We wanted it to be for the groom and bride. But if the bride's not going to come, all right, listen, let's party anyways. We may as well. Would any bride do that? Would any groom do that? No one's doing that. Because the point of the party is not for the party. We don't need musicians here playing. We don't need caterers. The point is not food. The point is, it's all about the bride. The whole point why I'm putting up this wedding is like that. We're getting married. If that's not happening, there's no point of anything here. Everything becomes meaningless. Everything becomes empty. The Alter is telling us we have to imagine our lives like that. There's a whole world out there. There's a whole cast, a massive cast that's involved in the universe, in the world, and in the lives that we live. There's a whole crew, hundreds, thousands of people. The reason why that is all happening, it's like that. I could live my life today and do a mitzvah. It's like that you could live your life and do a mitzvah. When all the investment of life happens, and all that investment ends up at our door, at the opportunities that we have, and then we use those opportunities to do a mitzvah, we are giving life, we are giving meaning, we're giving purpose, we're giving the purpose to all of reality. Now reality makes sense. Now we know why all these things are happening, why the world's spinning. And conversely, when we don't do that mitzvah, the world loses meaning. Why are we here? Why are these people here? Why are they working so hard? What's the point? A wedding has hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people, and every single one has their own role and their own responsibility. Either they're there for business or for pleasure. Either they're there to enjoy or to provide for that pleasure. But the point is, everybody is there for one reason and one reason only. It's like that this bride could get married to this groom, and this groom could get married to that bride. That's the only thing. If that's not happening here, nothing should be here. Why is there a party if there's no bride and groom? Why is the world here? Why is the world spinning? Why are these resources coming to my doorstep? Why are these opportunities knocking at my door? And there's only one reason and one reason only. There's so much happening in this world, and I'm just so little. I'm just one person. But the real truth is you're that one person that explains it. And that's your choice. The Alter is teaching us when we do that mitzvah, we're giving life and meaning. We're giving an excuse for all of that. And that is our responsibility. Dear friends, l'chaim, l'chaim. L'chaim, that we should all internalize and just realize how powerful our lives are. That each of us have a soul spark with a divine purpose, and we're living life because of that purpose. Not just we're living life because of that purpose, but the reality around us is designed to feed that purpose. And then it's all up to us. The buck stops by us. We have to be the ones to make that purpose happen. When we make that purpose happen, now the world has a meaning. Now the world has a purpose. And now the world has an explanation. And that is what our responsibility is. Dear friends, l'chaim, l'chaim. That's what we got for this week. Until next week. We still have another class or maybe two classes for chapter 37. Big chapter.
Well, you gave us a lot to think about, Rabbi.
Oh boy. Yep.